to the ASEI Getting Real with Engineering webinar. This is our first webinar in the series that ASEI is sponsoring. And today, for those who are new to ASEI or are non-members joining as guests, uh, let me introduce ASEI briefly. That American Society of Engineers of Indian origin is a 34-year-old organization with a mission to foster science and technology, temper, and create a community of like-minded engineers and scientists amongst the Indian diaspora settled in the US. With 5 active chapters who aspire to organize events in their local geography. I represent the nascent Silicon Valley chapter, where for the last few years, since inception, we have focused on STEM and give back to the K-12 education and underprivileged in the community. Hi, my name is Piyush Malik, and after 2 decades of corporate career in management consulting with PricewaterhouseCoopers and IBM, I'm now part of the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem and currently look after strategic accounts and Google Business Unit at SpringML, a startup helping enterprises take their first steps with data analytics and artificial intelligence and emerging technologies in their journey towards digital transformation. Today's topic of conversation is totally out of the world. Many of you on the phone may have, on the line here, would have some experience with rocket science or engineering, but here we are literally talking about space, moon, and Mars, and what space economy has in store for us. Our star speaker today is Dr. Ajay Kothari. To the ASEI community, Dr. Kothari is uh, not a new person, but for those who don't know, he's the president and founder of Estrox Corporation, an aerospace R&D company located in Washington, D.C. area. His PhD and master's in science in aerospace engineering are from University of Maryland. He has over 40 publications in peer-reviewed journals and very prestigious conferences. He was um, a best student awardee and merit scholar holder from India, national merit scholar, and he was also awarded Engineer of the Year by ASEI in 2011, and he served as the ASEI National Capital Chapter Chair from 2014 to 15, and also been on the national board here. And obviously, he has a lot of affiliations with the professional associations in aeronautics and space. And there are a number of things that he has done in his life which qualify him to be the speaker here. So without much further ado, let me welcome Dr. Kothari.
Oh, thank you very much, Piyush, and everybody on the listening to this thing. And I'm very happy to be here. Is the video on, or is this just a?
It's on. Video is on.
Okay, yeah. I cannot see the video.
We are sharing the screen right now, so this is what is on. Why don't we get started with you telling the listeners a little bit about your beginnings and how you got interested in space, and what did you do to get here?
Okay, it's sort of a far out story also. I was sitting in, my father had farm in North Gujarat, actually in India. And we were all sitting on the farm, and we didn't have television. We didn't have enough money to buy a television or anything, but we had an old decrepit radio. We were trying to listen to the Mercury splashdown and Apollo splashdown. At that time, it was Mercury splashdown. And then later on, Apollo splashdown. Right in the middle of a jungle with some tiger living nearby. And it was just very, very interesting. And we were trying to listen to this, and it was a successful thing after coming back from, going around the moon, and had not landed yet, going around this is in the 60s, going around the moon, coming back and landing within 3-mile radius of the intended target. So we were so impressed with United States actually, and what U.S. was able to do. I mean, the Russians also did that, but actually not to take something away from them, but they would announce it after the fact, and United States. So I got very much interested and impressed by what was happening here at that time, and got interested and came here and did my bachelor's in physics and a master's in PhD in aerospace engineering from University of Maryland here, nearby in Washington D.C. suburb. So that's what got me interested. I'm still very much interested, as you can see, in this particular topic, and it's picking up more and more as recently. So I wanted to sort of talk about that also. So that's kind of the story, Piyush.
Great, great, Dr. Tari.
Yeah.
Now, we all have grown up. Some of us were born a bit later, but then in 1950s, when the original space race started between USSR
Yes.
and US,
Yeah.
uh, with the sending of Sputnik and the race, who gets the first man on space, first man on moon, and so on and so forth, and the presidential resolve of the country to send man on moon, that was in the days of John F. Kennedy. So
Yeah.
starting from that space race to now,
Hmm.
um, now there's a recent spurt of activities, obviously,
Right.
from various governments, whether it is China or whether it is Israel or whether it is even India, who are contending to be, champions in the space race. Now,
Yes.
there are private companies as well. We all know um, SpaceX is out there, and there are a number of private investors who are trying to get into space. So,
Yeah.
uh, what are your thoughts about the space economy, and where is this leading us to?
Yes. So I think that I mean, you described very well what was how we started and all that, and then there was kind of a lull for a while. And what has happened now, and one of the reasons why so many people are getting into it, want to get into it, is because of the discovery of water ice on the moon, which was pretty much confirmed about a year ago by NASA scientists. And actually, to tell you the truth, it was sort of discovered by Chandrayaan 1 with they had a moon mineralogy mapper M3 that was one of the experiments that NASA put on Chandrayaan 1. And so all of that has sort of galvanized into a lot of interest from many people. So for like 40, 50 years, we didn't do anything after that, after going to the moon, coming back, because what for? Why should we do that again? We've done that, been there, done that. Of course, some of the other countries wanted to do that, but they were not that interested and excited. Now something has changed, and what that change is, there are a couple of things that have changed. One of them, of course, is what I mentioned, that there is water ice that they've discovered on the moon. It's 600 million ton worth of water ice. Now, one would say, okay, what's the big deal about water? I mean, we've got plenty of it here. But water ice on the moon, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But water ice on the moon is first of all, it takes $20,000 a kilogram to take anything from here to the moon surface. So if you have to take water also from here to the moon, that will cost that kind of money. On the other hand, if this water ice can be extracted by entrepreneurs, I mean, I'm hoping Indian American entrepreneurs too, then it can be done for about $500 a kilogram. So there is a huge amount of interest and money to be made, also, and entrepreneurial things that can be done there. The other thing that has happened that I sort of mentioned is that we have something that SpaceX is doing and Bezos is doing. You mentioned other companies, and that other company is Blue Origin of Bezos, which is also doing a lot of reusable craft. Actually, just flew one reusable craft yesterday for the sixth time. Same thing, sixth time. So because of that, I mean, imagine if you were to go from here to, to California or something, and you get rid of the plane once you get there, and they throw the plane away. Then what would happen? Then it will be just a huge waste, and it'll cost a lot of money. But if you were to reuse that thing, which is what we do, then the amount of money will go down a lot. This is what has happened. That Elon Musk has sort of proven beyond a shadow of doubt, effectively, and Bezos is doing the same thing. And so something is happening, which is, so these two things together makes it much cheaper to be able to go to the moon and do some of these other things. So what does that do? That builds a whole economy. It builds a space economy, a lunar economy, a space economy, which we were not able to do for all these years, which we can do now. And it's just incredibly interesting, and um, uh, the more and more things are going to happen. Now, why is it important for the water ice there to be found? Because from that water ice, and you're all engineers, that we can make liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen from that, and that's the fuel for rockets. So if you were to go there and you are, by the time you reach there, it's empty, then you can take off from there using the propellant from there, and you know that the moon is about 1.5% of the weight mass of Earth, 1.2 to 1.5% of the mass of the Earth. So the gravitational constant there is about one-sixth of what it is here. So to get out of the moon's gravitational well, you require much less fuel. And so from there, you can go to Mars, you can go to Jupiter, you can go to Io, you can go to all kinds of places, and asteroids also. So this is a huge deal. And I'm hoping that, we entrepreneurs and Indian American community and, all of us can really take advantage of that and, delve into it. So that's kind of the idea.
Definitely, this is uh, as per one analyst estimates, it's a 2.7 trillion dollar economy.
Yeah.
It's going to be by 2040, and when I saw that, I was intrigued. And if we break it down for entrepreneurs and for engineers in the audience here, I
Hmm.
mean, there are things that I've seen some folks like Naveen Jain trying to do asteroid mining, and some others who are planning to do space travel, sell tickets to space in under $250,000. So obviously all of these contribute towards the space economy. But do you really feel that the metal and mineral mining outside of Earth would be profitable for the human race?
Well, I'm not so sure of that, and I'm also not particularly, talking about these kinds of things. And I'm going and mining for metal. I mean, to me, the economy that we can generate. I mean, imagine this: to do all these things, we would probably have to have 100 or 1,000 people living there. You know, 1,000 people, 1,000 Americans, maybe some Indians. We all living there together, and going from place to place, and of course extracting even water. Let's just say water ice, extracting water ice, and other other things that will be done would be very exciting to the public here. um, Moon has lava tubes, which are sometimes lava tubes are uh, underground channels, or where lava flowed at one time. It would be so exciting to go and explore those things. You can even put live stream that thing, and I think that people on Earth, at least for a certain amount of time, would be very interested in doing that. This is all in addition to making money from just the water ice. And if there is some other metal, and there is a precious metal, uh, platinum quality metal, which are also available. I don't know much about that in terms of how difficult or easy that would be to do that. But even without that, we have, excuse me, a lot of possibilities of getting people excited about this thing, and a space economy, not only just on the moon, but on the moon, on the cislunar space, which is the space in between, around the Earth in Leo, and then from there to go to other places like Mars and other places. So the whole new uh, economy is going to be developed here in in United States. Hopefully we are Americans, and hopefully we'll develop it there, and it'll also be developed through other countries too. You know, I think that.
Yeah, great, great. Now, a lot of us as Indians have started thinking about space only since the Chandrayaan missions,
Yes.
Chandrayaan 1 and Chandrayaan 2. And recently, there was a Vikram lander, which was, a topic of discussion. And of course, landing on the far side of moon and discovery of water. So all of this definitely has stirred the imagination of a lot of folks. And
Mhm.
for folks like me who've grown up watching Star Trek and reruns of Star Trek,
Mhm.
this definitely presents a new way of imagining. And I hadn't thought of how we would profit from space and moon and Mars. But then I also heard, uh, a couple of years back, I was moderating a session at
Mhm.
TICON,
Yeah.
and um, somebody from NASA, Graham McIntosh,
Yeah.
uh, he talked about how uh, big data from their missions and telescopes and all of that is used to fuel various kinds of research, including search for extraterrestrial life, as well as emerging technologies and artificial intelligence and deep learning
Mhm.
helps in planning missions for Mars and even colonize Moon. And so obviously it stirs up a lot of emotions, but at the same time, knowing that National Aeronautical and Space Agency
Mhm.
has always been thinking in terms of 20 years, 30 years ahead, and thinking of the humankind as a multiplanetary species.
Mhm.
And listening to some of the comments from even Elon Musk saying, "I want to go and die on Mars, but not on impact." So makes a lot of us wonder how soon can we get there, and especially the economic plan that you have, the direction that you want us to follow.
Mhm.
Can you shed some light on that? Maybe if you have your presentation you want to
Yeah.
show and
Yeah.
talk
So
to that.
let's go to, if you can just can I? Yeah. Let's go.
If you want
Okay.
to control, you can start sharing your screen.
Okay. Well, that's fine. You can share yours, and I'll just tell you
Go
to.
ahead.
Yeah. So so this is the space directive that we have. Let's go to the next one. Uh, and this is where and we're going to leave this behind for people to see if they want to, but this is, I'm just going to go through very fast because we don't have a lot of time here. But the green area here is where the water ice is, and on the left it's a south pole, and on the right is the north pole. Most of the water ice is in the shade area, which is in the which does not see any sunlight, so that water has been there for 2 billion years or 3 billion years or something like that. Very interesting, but it's still water, so we can drink it. So let's go to the next one. Uh, and so NASA is confirmed, like I said. Let's go to the next one. It's been confirmed by some other uh, scientists from universities. Next, please. And some other universities here. Next, please. Uh, okay, so here is the, the most important thing that water produced on the moon has a current value of dollar 10 million per ton, and 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms, which is 10,000 per kilogram. But if you were to mine it, it is 5.5 million uh, per ton, or 500 $500 a kilogram. This is from a mining company in Canada, which has done a very good study of what it would take to mine this water and what the costs are right now. So let's go to the next one. Uh, so, okay, I'm going to say something here, which is that I think that many of these countries, including China, are trying to do the same thing. And so it has become sort of an urgency for us, Americans, to do this also. And the thing is that, we are not going to actually, so whoever goes there and who is at the table will write the rules about how we distribute this water ice there. And so if we are not there, we lose. So we are not going to fight. We are not going to go to war over it or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But we have to be prepared. And so we have to be there on the surface as soon as possible. And I'm saying 1,000 people there as soon as possible. Next slide, please. Um, so it'll be very interesting. Next one, please. So what I'm saying is that now, how do we do this? As we know, I think it is probably a couple of slides below here. So can you just go flip through one more? Yeah, okay. So back to this. Yeah, this is the roadmap. So now I'm talking a little technical jargon here, but this is all tied together. This is the roadmap for all the planets in the solar system, about how much energy, or it's called delta V. Delta V is velocity. Delta V is required to go from here to somewhere. To go from here to the Earth orbit requires about 10 kilometers per second of delta V. And then from there, what we do is we go to the low Earth orbit first. Then once it's in the orbit, as you know, Chandrayaan-2 did the same thing, and many others are doing the same thing. So you go into orbit, you are sort of going around and around, and then at some time you fire your rockets again. It's called translunar injection. So you go straight to the moon. I mean, Chandrayaan-2 did it slightly differently, but Americans have been doing it, going straight to the moon. So you go straight to the moon. By the time you reach moon, you're much less energy, kinetic energy, and so you're captured by the moon's gravity. And so you go around in the orbit around the moon, which is called low lunar orbit, LLO, and you are captured there. And then you fire another retro rocket, and then you slowly land, which is what the Chandrayaan-2 tried to do also. And so we land. So these are the numbers you see here on the right hand top, where it says moon, are the numbers that we have. These are the kind of energies we need to be able to do this delta V in terms of energy. So let's go to the next one. So this tells you that you will require a certain amount of fuel for being able to go from low Earth orbit to surface of the moon. And that amount of fuel required is called propellant fraction. And the propellant fractions are different for different fuels. RP LOX is your kerosene LOX, regular thing that SpaceX is using right now. LH2 LOX is what hydrogen and oxygen, which is what has been used also, and what Americans will also be using. And actually, Bezos is going to use for the upper stage also. CH4 LOX is methane LOX. So that's Raptor engine that Elon Musk is building, and also Bezos has worked on that already. So So let's go to the next one. So this are the engines. Next one, please. Next one. So what I did was to I don't have we don't have Bezos new Blue Origin doesn't provide too much information about what they are doing. They are doing kind of secretly and stuff. And so I built their vehicle in my own code to see what I have a code. We have a code. Astrox is a code called High Side, and we built this in that. And from that, I can actually design this vehicle, the entire vehicle, also the upper stage of this vehicle, which is what is going to go to the moon. And so I did that. And here you can see on the right, Bezos's vehicle, and on the left are my vehicle. It's the same size and everything. Let's go to the next one. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the vehicle that I designed, basically, on the top, and the one below is the Blue Origins, the Blue Origins version, Blue Origins vehicles, actually from their payload users guide. So as you can see, it's very, very close to what they have. So from that, I can tell whether how much, what I plan to do, what I'm going to suggest in a minute that we should be doing to get there. So let's go to the next one. Next slide, please. Next one. So what I'm suggesting is that instead of trying to build a bigger and bigger rocket every time we want to do something, here is what we can do. We put up something in orbit. Say New Glenn puts up something in orbit, or Falcon Heavy puts something in orbit. Their upper stage is in orbit. Now it has the first time it carries the payload. I say that let's now have another flight of Falcon Heavy or Blue Origin or whatever it is that which is called the New Glenn. And the upper stage now does not have a payload. And so then that upper stage, by the time it reaches the same point in low Earth orbit, will have that much more fuel left. So then these two things combine together in orbit, dock. And then what we have is that we have a lot more fuel, and we can use that, and then we do that 2 or 3 times. By that time, but in that way, we have enough fuel, enough propellant fraction that I showed earlier to be able to go to the moon. So now we can do it much cheaper, because all these reusable vehicles that Falcon Heavy has, Falcon Heavy is going to cost, about $93 million per launch. You can buy that for 93. Whereas NASA's Space Launch System is going to cost almost $1.5 billion for a launch. So this is a lot cheaper to be able to do it this way. And not only that, but that if you do this kind of a thing, you can make your propellant fraction match with the amount that you require to go to Mars, or to go to Pluto, not Pluto, but Jupiter, or any other place in the solar system. So this is what you have. You have a roadmap for the entire solar system, which is what I've created here. And it is a lot cheaper. It's 5 to 7 times cheaper than if you were to go with what is there at present, expendable vehicles. So these kinds of things just makes it possible for us to go to. This is the radar to the moon with New Glenn. 3 flights of that will allow me to take 16 ton of payload to the lunar surface in this thing. Let's go to the next one. Now we can do the same thing. I mean, I did the same thing with Falcon Heavy. I designed their upper stage also. Let's go to the next one. So this picture on the right hand side is what I have designed. This is from High Side, from my Astrox design, which is, so you fly 3 times or 4 times or 5 times, and you put the dock all of these things together. This is a lot cheaper. This is something we can do tomorrow. The whole country, the country can do this tomorrow. Entrepreneurs can do this tomorrow. And we can start, building this whole space economy sooner than what NASA is planning to do. And I hope we do that. We can do that, and we do that because we need to be first to do that. So let's go to the next one. And okay, this is the same Falcon Heavy here. And next one, please. These are some numbers for the Falcon Heavy. Next one, please. Uh, okay, so this is, so what I'm saying is that we do, not only we do this, but the tanks of the upper stage of New Glenn and a Falcon Heavy or anything else that we take as an upper stage, they become habitable habitats for people, astronauts or whoever wants to go and stay there for excavations, or of course, all of these things will have to be improved and made better and all that, but that can be done. It's not a big technical problem. This can be done tomorrow, a year from now. Why don't we do that? We should be doing that. And so this is a double whammy. We can do it cheaper, plus we can have a triple whammy. We can do it cheaper, we can do it sooner, and we can have these kinds of tanks as habitats available to be placed on the surface of the moon. Next one, please. This is just a picture of the colony where 3D planting. Yes. Okay. So I think that this is probably next one. Okay. So this is now too much verbiage. So this is this is kind of what this idea is. And if we want to do a space economy, and if we want to do a space economy for this country or for others together, and perhaps United States and India will partner a little bit more and all that kind of thing, we can do this together very soon, very fast, and much cheaper and sooner. So that's kind of the idea. And all of this is just simply the railroad idea. Well, I mean, we do have. Okay, I'll get into that when there is some more questions and stuff like that. But is that Piyush? Anything else?
Yeah, so I think this is great, and I would invite the members of the audience here to type in their questions via the chat panel, and there are folks from ASEI who are going to be monitoring, and I'll be monitoring as well, and then we'll get into audience questions. But then this, whatever you've presented so far, in fact, at one stage you said you have redesigned stuff. What Blue Origin has done, or for that matter, SpaceX or Elon Musk has done.
Yes.
But I think what you meant to say was you have simulated the design.
Simulated the design, yes. Same as what they have. Because if I want to do an actual calculation about what kind of payload I can take to the moon surface, I have to have done that before.
Right. Okay. So, and obviously all of this comes from some kind of experience that you've had in the past working with either US government or aerospace agencies. And can you shed some light on what kind of real work you yourself or your team has done as part of getting up to this stage, getting ready to this new initiative that you are influencing the policy on as well?
Yeah, sure. So I have, my company has been around for a while, for 30 years or so, and I've done a lot of contracts for the Air Force and NASA and DARPA and like that. So I've had fair amount of experience that way. Some of these I cannot talk about, obviously public thing. But yeah, but a lot of fun, a lot of experience, and a lot of fun too. And I've been doing this design of the reusable rockets also. I designed a reusable rocket for DARPA last about 2 years ago or something, and so this is kind of something that I enjoy doing. And so this all this work is done on my own dime, so on my own.
So essentially, what you're saying is you've been investing your sweat equity into this,
Yeah,
and now you obviously have some collaborators and you have some technical brains who you have worked with over a period of time
yes.
in this space, and who are so to say your collaborators or potential partners in the new venture. But more importantly, uh, you had mentioned at one point that you were also very closely aligned with the White House and having some policy initiatives with them. Are you able to talk about those?
I probably should not. It's just this that I am I'm interested in letting the people in the know about this thing. So what I've done is, I've written a lot of articles in news outlets, Space Review, Daily Caller. I've done some television shows and radio shows on the space radio show, and so I've talked about this for many years. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Well, I appreciate, and I totally understand there are limits to what you can share in the public forum, so that's fine. Uh,
Apologize for that, but I have
uh,
to.
are there any questions from the audience? Please put on the chat panel, and then we'll put across to Dr. Kothari. And
Yes.
Up for a
Uh,
second, but I'll hear.
uh,
Go ahead.
go ahead with your question.
Piyush,
Yes, please. Who's this?
I'm Dr. Ravi Sharma.
Dr.
I am
Sharma?
also a past co-chair of ASEI National and also NCC and Michigan chapters. I was on the board. So I am connected to ASEI. I still get your news. And
Wonderful. Wonderful having you here.
actually, I helped set up the California chapters. Now there are more than one, right?
Yes.
So
Three in California.
three in California, right? First one that started was the Boeing one.
SoCal. Wonderful. So,
Yes,
what's
SoCal.
the question, Dr.
So my question, first of all, Dr. Kothari, I've been hearing you at least for 20 years or 10 years,
Yeah.
10, 15 years on this subject. And one of the interesting talks he gave where he said about these very fuel fractions, I mean the propellant fractions, in a very interesting combination of rockets to the scientists at Goddard Space Flight Center. I was present for that talk. So he's a visionary, and we need to thank him for having come out here. I want to interject my own experience of 4 years on the moon, Dr. Kothari. As I mentioned,
Yeah.
I worked on the Apollo program and then on Skylab space station and space shuttle during 1968 to 72, emphasizing the experiments that the astronauts did on the moon, and
Mhm.
for that I got the Apollo Achievement Award from NASA.
Mm.
Then we worked on selecting payloads for Skylab, and then I only did design planning for Space Shuttle and Space Station up to Phase B in NASA headquarters.
Oh,
Then I
wonderful.
returned to India and worked on the ISRO as Space Science Scientific Secretary for 4 more years or 5 years. And during that period, we built Earth observation satellites. And also, I imparted a lot of training to people like Mr. Kalam at that time, who then became later a president of India. So,
Mm.
there is some thread of continuity. Moon has been my employer, and your emphasis on Moon as a starting point and setting up the colonies were very well described, Doctor. But do you want to tell us a little bit about Mars? And the second point is about the helium.
Yeah. Um, about Mars, I would suggest Moon is 3 days away. Mars is 6 months away. If something
Yes,
goes wrong with the astronauts, no doctor is going to make a house call for those people. So,
correct.
I mean, they don't make a house call in the same town. That's out of question. But Moon at least is 3 days away, and so what we need to do is we need to get real practice here and learn enough that we feel very confident about being able to do things in 1/4 of a gravity or 1/6 of a gravity as in the Moon and 1/4 as in Mars. So we have to do all that and learn all these things very well first before we venture onto Mars. We should go to Mars and all that kind of thing. But I think that at this point in time, there is enough potential on the Moon itself to build a whole economy. So we should be doing that, and then other things will just follow afterwards. That's my that's my opinion on that.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for your question, and Dr. Kothari. Let's move on if we have other questions. So I think there's other questions popping up. Please keep typing. A question from the side. Do you have united of different countries to achieve goal for Moon and Mars on another planet? And do you have blueprint for the above goals, like United 22 countries are in line to bring sun energy to Earth? So the question is more about, you know, rather than single countries doing things, do
Yeah.
you know much about how the countries are bonding together to bring sun energy to Earth? And again, another thread there is accepting human life is limited. Uh, and so,
I have looked at the it's called solar space power,
okay,
uh, solar based space power, SBSP. I have looked at that. It is really not viable. Um, the problem is that um, you require it's in in space you can capture up to about 12 to 1300 watts per meter square of solar energy. On Earth, you can capture about 300 to 400 on a good day, watts per meter square. So it's about 4 times more there. So people say that. But to put up anything in orbit, in this case, it would probably have to be in GEO, which is a geosynchronous orbit. It's pretty far, and it costs a lot of money to be able to do something like that. It'll have to be a stationary station. So it's not practical. It's not worth it, and then you have to send that beam all to the Earth, and then you have to make sure that nothing comes in its way. Um, and then when you calculate that the amount of surface area that will be required to get a certain amount of energy from there to here, and on Earth it'll be 4 times more surface area, that it just, I mean, I would be able to build something on Earth probably 100 times larger area at the same price than something in Geo, maybe even larger ratio. So I don't think that solar space power um, is really going to pan out. I think there are other things like what I'm saying about space economy that has a better chance of panning out. So this is my opinion.
great, thank you. And Anil Desai, who typed the questions, there were some typos. Obviously, I couldn't understand the question better. But he also has one more question about accepting human life as limited years. And um, obviously, a lot of these programs require time and technical expertise in
Mm.
making it happen. So maybe one of the questions can be formulated is, in our lifetime, can we imagine that we would be able to visit Moon and come back as citizens and start some profitable venture over there?
Absolutely is what I would say, as an answer to this. Now, like I said, we can do this. We can start something in a year with what's already available, and they are building some other stuff. But which is just what is available. We can start this in a year. In certainly in our lifetime, we can in 10 years we can have colonies of people living there. Maybe not 1,000, but we can have 100 people living there. And so then it'll just grow and grow. Uh, Space tourism is another thing. I mean, lunar tourism actually is another thing, which is, I think that, I mean, a lot of people, I myself, if I had enough money, I would love to go and live there for maybe a week or a few days or something like that and come back. I would not want to do that for Mars, even though Elon Musk wants to. I would not want to do that because it'll take away about 2 years out of my life. But for 2 weeks, oh, I would love to do that. So that's possible. The other question, I think also that the gentleman asked, Mr. Desai, about countries working together. For space-based solar power, I said no. But for going to the moon and for other things like that, space economy, all countries are going to participate and hopefully will participate in that. I mean, China already has some plans, well, that was disclosed, where they think it's going to be a cislunar space, which is a space between Earth and Moon, is going to be $10 trillion economy that they would like for that to be. So, China is going to be there. India will probably be there. Israel, Russia, European Union, some countries, and us Americans will all be there too. And so I think that there is a huge potential here for something completely new, very exciting, and it's just there's no end in sight. After that we can go to moon, then from there with this cheaper fuel, cheaper ability to go elsewhere, we become a spacefaring civilization, a humanity. This is a thing for the whole humanity. Now, will there be competition between countries? Yeah, I'm sure there will be. But we have to, that there are a lot of competitions on Earth too. So there'll be competition that I don't think we are ever going to war over each other or with other people over this. We'll reach compromises. Actually, last year, there was a conference here at the Department of Commerce where United Nations was also invited, and people talked about what kind of rules and regulation we should have for doing something like this. A week ago or 10 days ago, on December 3rd, there was a conference at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce here that I went to, where they were talking about the space, lunar and space economy. So this is being taken very seriously. And I think that we should also participate, Indian Americans, who have contributed a lot to this country, and various different fields and things like that. And I think that here is a chance for us also to do this. And there are some real good entrepreneurs, strong entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley itself. And those people, these people are coming from there. A lot of these people are coming from that kind of economy and have divulged into this thing. And you can make a mark in history with this. Here is a chance. This is a chance that may or may not come again for a long time or for many. No, there are other chances that will happen too. But in this field, well, I'm not just in this field, but historically speaking, also to have a lunar colony named after you, for example, can also happen. If there are some serious entrepreneurs who get into it. So it's just amazing possibilities are there today.
So what you're saying is, as an incentive to the investors,
Yeah.
apart from a seat on the board of your company, they perhaps decide to name a planet or two in the solar system.
No. So colonies on the moon,
Okay.
on the moon village or whatever, something like that. So I mean, and these are all various different things that are going to happen. When that'll happen and all that is depends on how much enthusiasm people go into it with. And I think that there's real possibility of this is an extraordinary time for us, for engineers even.
Yeah, when you first proposed to talk on this topic, I
Yeah.
thought this was a page taken out of a science fiction movie. But
Yeah.
the more you're talking, and the more we've been talking, meeting, and preparing for this session, felt like yes, you've done some work, and it really needs some backing. Notwithstanding your alliance with or affiliation with Screen Actors Guild. And by the way, I should tell the audience that Dr. Kothari is a versatile and multifaceted personality. He's the first Indian American member of the Screen Actors Guild by virtue of having performed in serials and films. And so it struck a chord with me because as SAG happens to be a client of mine as well, where we are using artificial intelligence and machine learning.
You are sending residuals to people like I'm one of those people that you send residual to.
So we won't go into the amount of payments or multi-million dollars that you're getting from your films, but let's talk about what amount of money are you looking to raise, Dr. Kothari?
Well, I'm not sure. Let's go to the next slide now. Maybe next couple of slides. Yeah, this one. I'm not trying to talk about our team per se or anything like that. I'm just saying that we have put together a team with me and Jess Parnable, who is a great program manager from DARPA, who actually was the head of the program for a reusable rocket at DARPA. John Livingston is a brilliant guy from Air Force, retired, and Sanjay Puri, the head of US Impact. So, we have sort of gotten together and formed a team like this, so that some people like to see the team. I think, I get excited about what it can be, what can be for humanity and for America and for us together and all that. So this is the team. And the next slide. Well, it's a growing market, like what you said, Piyush. It's about 2.7 trillion by 2040. It might even become bigger than that. I don't know. Next. So it's a multi-stage business model in terms of the business model, first, second, third, and all that. And so these are just some thoughts we put together. First, you do the proof of concept, of course, obviously. Before that, the 0th level is a detailed study of what I have discovered here. And then you do the proof of concept, and then construction, expansion, and mature phase.
But just curious, by any chance, you or anybody else has patent on the discoveries?
No, I don't think that. I've not applied for anything like that, and I don't know. This is a process and a method that I have discovered, which is good way to go, and so it is something that I had to disclose to the public and government, and so it's not anything that can be patentable per se. I'm not sure. I have not looked into that. No.
You might want to, because there are processes and methods that can be patented. coming from my IBM background, where we used to file a number of patents every year.
I have 2 patents already, but that is for hypersonic vehicle designs and stuff, where obviously I was able to do that.
Awesome. Definitely, you have credentials in this space. But let's talk about the money part and how you would. In fact, we are out of time, so in the last minute or so, how would you want the Indian community or the entrepreneurs and the engineers and scientists on this call and those who will be listening to the recording,
Mm-hmm.
how would you want them to be engaged? And what's your preferred method of going forward, if you could?
Well, the preferred method is to contact either you or me or whoever else, at ASEI or something, and then we can work together on this, something like this, and then we can discuss ways to do the proof of concept. Proof of concept can be done with a couple of flights of Falcon 9 and some help from NASA and like that, And so then other things are a little far away, but for the study that we are talking about, that I talked about, it's about $600,000 or $700,000, something of that type. Proof of concept, actually flying 2 Falcon 9s, mating the upper stage in orbit. If we can do that, that'll be the first time that it would have been done. And then those 2 stages together can take one ton to the moon surface. Imagine being able to do that. Imagine just being able to do that by a company or Indian American company, let's say, being able to do that.
Yeah, I think this is a matter of national pride as well as showing our technical competence. And
Right.
given we heard just you today, but there might be other folks in this Indian diaspora who may have some experiences, and banding together is always a good idea. Pooling of ideas,
That is a good idea, exactly.
resources together is a good idea. And
Right.
so again, if there are any venture capitalists or angel investors in the audience, what would be one key takeaway for them? What would be your message for them?
I think that the message is that there is a possibility of economic benefit, which the numbers I cited before, but there is also a historic significance, historic contribution here possible for some people. For this has never been done before. I mean, imagine you being the people who will start building colonies on the moon. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. And then once somebody else starts doing it, and then we'll be the second or third, but not the first. No. So,
I just got a comment from one of the participants saying this lunar rush. I hope it doesn't make us lunatics.
Well, actually, I was thinking of founding a company and name it lunatic.com or something like that, but decided not to do that. But that's true. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, actually, the word lunatic came from Luna, moon, and that people used to go crazy on full moon or something like that. That's where the word lunatic comes from.
Right.
On that light note, I think it's time for us to wrap up. I hope you enjoyed the show. And in fact, what I would suggest is for the members who attended, please send your feedback. And if you want to engage with Dr. Kothari, reach out to him, to ASEI. We are here for you. And for those who are not members of ASEI, consider joining one of the chapters and participating in our activities. Thank you very much for joining, and good night, and all the best in your endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.